F.E.A.R is highly regarded as one of the best first-person shooter games ever made, but what makes F.E.A.R stand out among its peers? 2 words: artificial intelligence. While the concept of F.E.A.R started after the development of Shogo, an FPS mech game developed by Monolith in 1998, production didn't start until after the release of Contract Jack. According to Director of Technology Kevin Stevens, they wanted F.E.A.R to be, quote, an action movie in a first-person shooter where you really feel like an action star. They noted how John Woo films were a source of inspiration, and it's not hard to see the similarities. During F.E.A.R's development, Monolith believed games were lacking in well-made challenges, so they decided to focus on making F.E.A.R have an intense close-quarters combat system with special attention given to dynamic lighting, physics objects, particle effects, sound design, and robust AI, unlike anything at the time.
We'd played games where you were part of a special forces team, but the enemies are always just standing around. We wanted to play against a special forces team, so the AI just had to be phenomenal.
The evolution of AI in gaming has been one driven by the demand of the players. These days, people are looking for a deeper experience. They want a greater challenge and deeper immersion.
So how did they do it? People say that F.E.A.R's AI still holds well by today's standard, but how? Simply put, they just thought about AI in a different way. They had a different approach to building their AI systems compared to people at the time. Most games at the time, and even to this day, use 2 different algorithms to build their AI: A-star search and finite state machines. A-star search is an algorithm originally made for graph traversal, which is basically useful for finding routes on maps. A-star search is also used in video games for AI pathfinding, so they don't end up getting stuck on walls or other objects. However, finite state machines are a little more complex. FSMs are basically a behavior model that changes depending on a certain event occurring. You see FSMs all the time in real life, like traffic lights and vending machines. However, Monolith had a different approach to this and decided to add the ability to give the AI a plan, calling it goal-oriented action planning. With this idea, Monolith used another algorithm called strips, which gave the AI goals and actions that could satisfy the goal. I'll try to explain the system in a simpler way. From what I gathered out of the original strips document from Stanford University, this is a theorem to give AIs problem-solving capabilities. In this fight, I start by taking out 2 guys, one with an explosive barrel. I then turn to see an enemy trying to flank me, and I go in slow motion to take him out. It seems clear until I spot an enemy to my left close to the pillar. It seems he's using the suppressing fire action as part of his plan. Then I hear another one trying to push towards me from the right, attacking while moving to a piece of cover. The AI is giving me audio cues to where his location might be, which I believe is fair for a game like this due to the lighting and number of enemies you have to fight in each section. I tried dispatching him, but he gets away and hides in a room. I decided to test the AI by waiting for him to go through the door again. I figure it's going to happen at some point. Then I see that there's no windows on this side, so now I decide to try to go around, and that's when I see him again. I turn the corner to see a broken window. Monolith made the AI appear smart enough to not go through the door he just retreated to and meet a clumsy death. Instead, he tries to flank me from the back by jumping through a window to meet a more explosive death, but still impressive. However, it's not always perfect. You'll have enemies that will run straight in front of you while you're peeking out of cover. But there are multiple moments in the game where the AI does something I didn't expect or wasn't ready for. Part of me almost wants the AI to not say a word and maybe it'll get some good flanks in. But I don't think that's what the devs want. It could cause the player to become confused at where the enemies are and get some cheap shots on you since, for the most part, this game is pretty quiet. But as you can see, this system allowed them to give the AI the ability to have goals, create their own plan, and actions to complete them. But those actions can change depending on certain preconditions, potentially changing the plan on a dime. The AI is constantly reacting to where you are, what you're doing, and they have several options to choose from in order to eliminate you. They can roll through windows, retreat to their ally, try to move closer, throw a grenade, throw down a shelf or crate to use as cover. They can even detect sounds and your own flashlight. Here's a fun fact. The AI actually aren't even aware of each other's own existence, even though they have voice lines that sound like they are. But it's all a trick. They only react to the player and what you do. With these techniques, F.E.A.R's AI is able to have the goal of eliminating the player, but have many different plans to achieve the goal. But it also has action prioritizing. This means that certain actions will be prioritized over others depending on certain factors. For example, if the goal is to eliminate the player, but the AI doesn't know where you are, then it will put the eliminate player goals prioritization down to 0%, and they'll just patrol the area until they find you. Halo 2 did a similar system with behavioral trees that had a hierarchy. Then, depending on certain events like an ally dying near them, the AI could do random things like go into a rage or retreat in terror like grunts do. However, this system isn't nearly as robust from what I've seen in comparison with F.E.A.R. Both of these games use their AI to improve their game experience, but it seems F.E.A.R is still the one that's talked about the most to this day, and I believe it comes down to execution. There's also voice lines that give the AI personality. They'll call out your position, say what you plan on doing, or crap their pants. In conclusion, F.E.A.R's AI is a landmark in AI systems for video games, with many adopting these techniques after the game's release. And as time passes, many will still look back at Monolith's 2005 horror FPS classic, as it leaves its stamp on gaming history.